So you might be asking, like, what is the Teams platform? Like, what's this all about? Well, it's so much more than chat and meetings, right? So if you think about it, it's how you connect the applications, all of the different. I lost my place here. There we go. My screen's getting wonky, but it's how you connect the applications, the conversations, documents, all into your own workspace, right? And you can incorporate business processes now that help kind of transform or modernize the way you work. And this really results in getting things done faster and more efficiently. So as an example, right? So perhaps you've co-authored a Word document in a project team channel, or transformed a manual business approval process with a Power App, or even interacted with a self-service bot to get your pay and benefits information from an ADP, Workday, or the like. This is how you can kind of start to think about Teams as the platform. We frequently hear that organizations struggle to drive adoption. Well, good thing we got BrainStorm here to help with that today. In fact, a Forrester study indicated customers who leverage applications in Teams increase user adoption by 75%. Fact. Teams allow you to stay in the flow of your work and not get sidetracked by bouncing around to different applications and searching tirelessly for information. What was I looking for? That used to happen to me quite frequently, and I'd get interrupted. So while IT does need to allow access to these third-party applications in Teams, like a BrainStorm or a Mural or a ServiceNow, the business justification to request access where needed, it's simplified because your organizations, you're using these applications already. So it's just easier administratively to enable access and turn these applications on. All right, let's get into it. So I'd like to introduce the BrainStorm team to tell us more about the integration with Teams. Casey.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. I really appreciate it. And just to get started, number one, Travis, Doug, super cool that you're doing this. I love the ability that you've taken on to help arm your customers with a better way to work. It's so cool. I'm actually going to go back a slide here for just a second. I'm interested from the group. Please put into the chat which one of those benefits over to the far right it resonates with you. What's something that you're like, I imagine it's probably those support tickets, but what actually resonates with you over there on the right hand side? If you wouldn't mind putting that into the chat, I'd love to get more information from you on that. Let's dive in, and I'm just going to actually comment on the citizen development one. BrainStorm, headquartered in Utah, and if you have not been to Utah to ski on our mountains, you're missing out. Please come out. Please visit. One of the ways in which our organizations keep employees excited about working for BrainStorm is they actually buy corporate passes to all of the ski resorts in Utah. So as an organization, you can either take a client out, you can take your family, and go take a ski day. Go have fun. So obviously, everyone at our organization wants to get these ski passes. So what would happen in your current state? Your current state is you go out to IT, hey, could you create some reservation place? Or we go to an executive admin and we say, hey, could you create some type of calendaring for this? Guess what we did? We created a citizen developer. It was an intern, summer project, and said, hey, I'm going to create something through the Power Apps that allows us to go in there, reserve it, know who's going to have it next so we can pass these off. It took that intern maybe about 30 minutes. They're not proficient in Microsoft technology at all. And all of a sudden, we had a reservation app for our ski passes. Imagine the lift from IT not having to bother with that. Imagine the lift from IT not having to create the app, and if something went wrong, they went back to IT to do that. IT's focusing on something completely different. Empowering our employees to be able to do some of these things, that's one of the benefits that we've seen from this. So let's get in. Let's talk a little bit about BrainStorm. So BrainStorm, our core competency is changing end user behavior at scale. And for those that are attending this meeting, I'm sure that you're attending this meeting because, hey, I want to take more advantage of Teams as a platform. Gosh, if we could just get our users to understand, this could be the central hub for everything that you do to work. Your organization might have read, your executive team might have read recently the McKinsey report that said, hey, do you know that the average user spends about 6 hours per day searching for information internally, just internal documents? So to put that into better context, if you hired 5 people one person wouldn't show up for work because they would consistently go be looking for information. That's how bad it is sometimes when we go and search for information. So if our business understands that using technology in a better way is important, if us as an IT team knows that it's an important thing for us to use Teams as a platform, why don't our users actually go do it? And so one of my favorite quotes, this is from Adam Grant. He's an organizational change professor. He wrote this book called Give and Take. And he said, one of the things that we do when we are trying to get any individual to stop a particular behavior and to start a new behavior, there's what's called this perspective gap. And so I'll give you an example of it. Your executive team, you pitch this idea that we want to use Teams as a platform, and maybe we're going to get rid of some duplicate applications. And your executive team says, gosh, this could disrupt our business. Will it? How do we know that? Well, that's their perspective. As an IT team, maybe you're thinking about, hey, you know what? We love the way that we use a certain application, and if we put all of this and we track all of our projects inside of Teams, gosh, will that slow us down? Well, will it? That's your perspective. Your users seeing this and saying, gosh, I don't understand which tool I should use. There's a perspective gap in each one of these scenarios. So how do you shrink that perspective gap? And that's actually through getting data from our own individuals that are trying to make this change. So as we walk through this today, we're going to highlight our Quick Help Teams app. So we have a SaaS software that enables users to understand and empower them to understand what is the behavior you want me to do, and why is that a benefit to me as an organization. So as you think about your upcoming projects for the year, and it might be better utilization of Teams as a platform, meaning we're going to start to standardize on using Teams for conferencing. We're going to start to use Teams for better security. We're going to start to use Teams for better project management. We want to create citizen developers. We want people to use Teams as a central hub, so we're going to start to teach them to do third-party applications. These are all behaviors that you want your users to start to do. But what's the gap that keeps them from doing that? And that's what we're going to walk through today. Is if you are a current BrainStorm customer, these services come included with your contract with us. If you are not a BrainStorm customer, don't worry. BrainStorm is going to fund a proof of concept for your organization to test this out, to say, hey, can we get a subset of users to perform this change in behavior? So I want to just right at the beginning let you know that as I go through this, whether a customer or not a customer of BrainStorm, we want you to see that we can help you shorten that perspective gap, give you some data to be able to say, hey, guess what? Our users will actually do this. Or if they're not doing this, this is the concerns that they have. And it's actual data, not just our perspective. So let's start talking a little bit about this. So the whole focus of these snackables are around third-party applications. And the ServiceNow, if you haven't listened to that one, fantastic. The Poly one was great. Each one of them are saying, hey, here's a way in which your users are working. And here's how, if we put this inside of Teams, we can shorten that time of resolution. So BrainStorm, what we're trying to do is get people to better adopt Microsoft technology from an end user perspective. We want them to use more of what you've given them. So why not message users inside of Teams technology that Microsoft is currently enabled for them that applies to their job? So if I'm an executive admin, imagine me going in and I turn on my Teams, I've had my IT team pin this BrainStorm app for me, and immediately I get a communication that says, here's 7 ways you can work faster with Teams than in email as an executive admin. Do I immediately click on that and start to learn? Of course I do, because you're bringing the technology to me and you're bringing it in a place that I live every day as a user. That's powerful. So I have a little screenshot, but Travis and Doug told me don't show screenshots, actually demo something for them. So let's actually demo this and let you see this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and then I'm going to share my screen over here, and let's make sure all this works right. Hopefully it does. And you should see a blank screen, and I'm dragging over my Teams. So let's actually walk through this. So we're going to give a couple of different examples, and then we're going to actually dive in. And like I said, if you're a current customer, we're going to have documentation right after this for you to be able to see this information and be able to access and work on this information, okay? If you are a prospective customer, BrainStorm is going to fund a subset of days, months for you to be able to utilize this and actually see this. So here we go. Let's say at your organization, the behavior that you want your users to actually start to take is there's more than just instant messaging than what you're using Teams for today. Okay? That's the communication we want to start to get out to our users. So the first card that would be sent to the organization would be it's more than instant messaging. We have a little description. All of these change campaigns are pre-created for your organization to choose from. So whatever behavior change you want, you're going to choose a change campaign that matches to it. So I want these individuals to understand it's more than just instant messaging. That's one example. Let's say at your organization, we're going to make the move from Zoom to Teams. We've decided that this is going to benefit our organization if we can standardize on a central meeting platform. So the question is will our users actually go do it? Well, let's go see. So we're going to target a subset of users, marketing, sales, maybe, that are using Zoom today, and we need to help them feel comfortable about making this move from Zoom to Teams. Okay, so that's what we're going to start to target these users about. Well, maybe we want to get even more specific, and we want to maybe let our accounts payable team know that, gosh, you guys could actually automate a lot of things without having to actually rely on IT to do that. Did you know that there's some pre-made templates that can help you automate workflows that you have today for you? So depending upon the behavior change, depending upon the users at your organization that you want to target, these change campaigns will start to be communicated to your users through Teams for them to interact with. So let's dive in and start to look a little bit more about what that experience would entail for the users. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to drag on this. The user clicks on, hey, I want to understand how I could use Teams as a platform. Well, you're going to see first and foremost that this is super small, meaning minute and 43 seconds of why Teams as a platform would be a benefit to you. We're going to then take some initial questions to the user. Hey, have you ever used Teams to collaborate on a document? Have you ever used Teams to pin an application? Have you ever used Teams to automate anything? And just get an initial assessment. Then we're going to start to teach them how to do these things to use Teams as a platform. Now, again, this is all customized according to how you want your users to work. And it starts to take them through the behavior change that you're looking for. And then at the end, we're going to reassess. And I want to actually just show you the reassessment questions on this one because I think they're so fascinating. First and foremost, was this a valuable use of your organization's time? Again, this is all in line with that behavior change that we're wanting our users to make. Fascinating stat. Again, we have millions of users in the platform. 87% of users say this applied to my job. This was a valuable use of my time. Just think about that data. Okay, now that you understand how to better utilize Teams as a platform, which ones do you intend to start to use? Well, that's some fantastic data because, again, the integration of our Quick Help Teams app along with the full set of Quick Help, we integrate with your Microsoft Graph. So that way, if you see a certain department saying, hey, tracking and working on projects is probably the number one thing and why we want to use Teams as a platform, guess what type of information we're going to start to give that department? We're going to dive deeper into how to manage projects, right? Because they've raised their hand and said, this is of importance to us. The next question inside of this, do you feel now comfortable in doing this? Are you ready to make this change? Is there anything keeping you from using Teams beyond just the instant messaging component? Is there anything else that you feel is of concern? And then my favorite one is give me an example of a task or workflow that could be more efficient if I was using bots, if I was using Power Automate, if I was using some of these different aspects of Teams as a platform. Give me an example. Now, I think we have a lot of retail customers here, but just to tell you how applicable this was, this is a state and local organization. And as you know, state and local, if you've ever tried to pay your taxes or get someone to come give you a new garbage can, they do not automate anything. It is so slow. And the reason why I wanted to point out this example is in this question, one organization, they had 426 examples of tasks or workflows that could be automated from what they just learned. Now, how this is beneficial to you as an IT team, what things should the IT team take over? Which things are going to require some programming? Which things should they be taking? And which ones should our citizen developers start to take over? Now you start to understand that we have that perspective, how we can shorten that gap of what's most actionable for our users. It's a powerful thing to be able to see that. I'm going to stop presenting here, and I'm going to go back to our original presentation. Travis, I think I'm going to need you to pull that back up for me because you own that PowerPoint. And I want to show, thank you very much, sir. And I want to grab just some of those reports that you're going to be able to gather to shorten that perspective. And then, of course, Travis and Doug are going to talk to you next steps about how do we act now? Why not act now in getting our users to start to understand a better way to utilize Teams as a platform. So I'm going to take control here and let me jump to this slide right here. So here's some of the data that's going to come out. Let's imagine for this example, just so you know, again, this is over 20,000 users. This is across organizations, and they were making a move from a third-party application. I believe in this case, it was a WebEx, that they were moving from WebEx to Teams, and their organizations were super concerned about will users feel comfortable in making the switch, because what they had always heard is, gosh, we've been using WebEx for 20 years. We can't make this change and use Teams as a platform. Teams doesn't have the same feature set that we need inside of it. So there's no way we could make this switch from WebEx to Teams. Well, after they went through that campaign, getting messaged inside of Teams saying, here's what we want you to do, reminder communications being sent through Teams about, hey, you need to finish that learning that you just took, and helping them get that to completion. That last question inside of that skill path, after they understood Teams as a platform, was, do you have any concerns? Take a look at that. Almost 65% said all set. The first biggest concern was, should I stop using a similar solution? Second, I don't feel, is everyone on my team going to do this? Like, is everyone going to make the move to Microsoft Teams? And then number three, I don't know when I'm supposed to make this change. Notice down at the bottom, 2% said I don't use Teams because I don't see the benefits. They don't 6%, they don't have the feature set. Perspective gap shortened. That's what we need to be able to bring to the organization to say, does this behavior change make sense for us to start to have? Let me give you some other ones. This is, I think this is across about 200,000 different users and their sentiment analysis. This is across a wide variety of organizations, from retail to healthcare, across all sorts of different organizations. And again, they went through that similar experience, being notified inside of Teams. Here's the behavior change we want you to make. And then this is the data that they provided during that learning. Now they understood the behavior change. Now they understood what Teams could do. Now, how are you feeling? One item that I want to call out for you is 70% of people said they've had projects fail to stay on schedule. Wow. Do you think Teams as a platform and collaborating on a document, having all my apps in that one channel, being able to access all of that information would help in staying on schedule? You bet it did. Of course it did. Now that users understood all the capabilities of Microsoft Teams. One more on the Power Platform, 85% of people said this would change the way that they would work with Power Automate. If you're trying to find those use cases, if you're struggling for a way to make this applicable, it's because we need to bring the technology to the user and not ask the user to go find the technology. That's why having a third-party app and having that communication and that integration is so powerful, because it's living where the users are at. in first letting them just see the messaging, and then second, applying technology that matters to them. That's the second key component to it. Now, we will tie into Microsoft Graph so that we can actually say, hey, that's great as an organization. We're saying we're doing these things, but are we actually doing these things? So let's say one of the initiatives that you have is using Teams as a platform to be more secure and more compliant. Well, in order to be secure and compliant, I got to understand how we communicate. Well, if we are using emails and attachments, compliancy and security is at risk. The number one reason why people click on things they shouldn't click on, ransomware, malware, whatever that might be, is because, and again, this is from millions of users giving us this feedback, I clicked on the things I shouldn't click on because I have too much email. And I know I should hover over the email address. I know I should hover over the link. But when I have 200 emails and it's 12 o'clock at night, I'm just trying to get through stuff. If I'm on my mobile device, I'm just trying to get through things. Well, let's help reduce email by using Teams as a platform so that our users actually have more time to investigate, because we're actually changed that and we're using the capabilities of Teams as a platform. Well, how else do people collaborate today? In here, it's kind of hard to see, but you're going to see 15 different applications that your users use today to put things into the cloud. Is that okay? Is that not okay? That's a decision now that you have to be able to make because you have that right perspective in seeing how all of this works. In sakes of time, we have about 5 minutes left. I really want Travis to get to next steps so you understand how we can start to make this happen for you. In this slide right here, and Travis will talk more to this, I'm sure it's going to come out to you, but if you're, again, a prospective organization, there's a link for you to go fill out your information if you want to have a funded proof of concept to get started. If you're a current subscriber to BrainStorm, it's going to tell you how to get started today with the Quick Help Teams app. But we're excited to realize those benefits that was shown at the start from Travis on the benefits of using Teams as a platform. And that is such a small subset of that data. There is so much more that you can go and explore and realize when you really start to dive into it. So Travis, I'll turn the time back over to you.
Yeah, actually, Casey, that's going to be me, and I don't need that long
Doug,
to clear this slide, but I'd love for you, if you don't mind, to put you on the spot.
Please.
Well, if you want to try to share your screen, you went through some really great functionality and capability of what the BrainStorm app inside of Teams can do and provide for these organizations that are here with us today. Can you just show some basic functionality as well from an end user viewpoint? Is there anything that, like I said, if I'm putting you on the spot, that you could just highlight inside the app?
That's the great part about it, Doug. Inside of the app, I think what would, what I will do is I'll send over a little recording. That will probably be better, Doug, because I want to take it from two perspectives. I want to take it from the IT perspective of the change campaigns, how you can just choose a day and a time and when you want those communications to be sent out from Teams. No extra work. Choose the campaign that you want to do. Set, hey, I want this to be sent every Tuesday at this time, and boom, it's done for you. I want to see them. I want to show them from a communication side, because that's always a concern. Is this going to add more to my plate? No, it's not. It's going to be automated. From the second component, from an end user perspective of how do I get the communication? How do I interact with the bot? How do I get that questions and answering going? I'll also want to highlight that. I couldn't do that in the amount of time we have left, Doug, but I'll definitely put a recording in there for people to see that from both perspectives, from the IT and from the end user perspective.
You got Great it. Question. And then you mentioned it a little bit from an IT standpoint. If somebody is interested in lighting up this application, give an idea on that effort from a time standpoint.
Yeah, if you're a current customer, it'll take less than, gosh, I'd say an hour. And why I'd say an hour is that's from the perspective of what's the change campaign you want to run, what do you want to highlight, is there specific groups you want to target? Because we integrate with SSO and your graph, it's really made simple. And then from there is when do we want to send out the communication? The impact, Doug, I'll just give you one feedback on an impact story. One organization, they have, I think it's around 70,000 users. They lit up the Quick Help Teams app, and in that month, they had 30,000 end users interacting with the app.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, folks, I appreciate it as we're bumping up against time here. Again, Travis and I love doing these sessions, and thank you, Casey, for joining us today. Fantastic job and walking through the capabilities here. This is just a sneak peek of many others. And so our ask of you is very quick, very easy. please fill out the survey. Travis put the link in the chat for us. That not only helps us get better at doing these sessions, but you can make recommendations on additional partners you'd like to see join to help you through those efforts. As it points out here, we'll also be giving away some prizes for those that do fill out the survey. Go out and install the BrainStorm app today. The links are in the slide as well as in the chat. And we'll be sending you out a recording of this session here in the next couple of days once we get things cleared through. And lastly, raise your hand, reach out to Travis and I if you have some questions, thoughts, or needs around not only BrainStorm and that implementation, but other third-party apps that you'd like to see or want some help with. We're here to support that effort, whether it's us or our peers that can engage with you around that. Will certainly let us know. But in the meantime, we really appreciate your time and energy today. And we'll look forward to the one coming up in a couple of weeks. Travis, who's coming up next?
We've got Mural coming up 2 weeks from today. So I'll put a link to that as well, but you might be able to click it right from the slide. And if there's any questions, if you want to come off mute, I think we can probably stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions you might have. Last thing that I'll put in the chat here is, how do I install the BrainStorm app? So there's 2 great resources, as you can see on the screen. So we'll make sure that you have access to those links. I'll say thanks so much, Casey. Really appreciate it. Great job. Courtney, nice job in the chat as well. And yes, we'll stick on for a few minutes if folks have questions.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.